Hello, this is Luke Turner, and I'm back with another episode of Building an Exercise Tracking Web App from Scratch. So let's start with the usual stuff. I'm going to start the database, run the client-side code bundler, open up a new tab, run the server. And when that's loaded, we'll open it in the web browser. Don't know which of these to click on. Let's just do this. Log in. And here we are. Okay, so let's talk about what we want to do today. Let's take a look at our notes. What's this about? Well, let's start by taking a look at this. I'm not sure exactly what caused this to happen. Okay, controller sets. That's here. Line 52. So it's trying to get sets or get exercises for a user, but the user does not exist. So how could this happen? It should be, how did that happen? Let's see if we can replicate it here. So if I just close the server, I guess I didn't sign out first. Let's reopen that. And if we just refresh the page here, we don't get that error. There is still this spread thingy, but that's just a warning. If we sign out and then sign in, we still don't get the error. If we sign out and then go to /today, then we get the error. So it's trying to do something weird here. So sort of the way this is supposed to work is this sets router. If we look at our routers file here, that should be beneath this like authenticated router. So it should be redirecting us if we don't have an associated user. But for some reason, that seems like it's not working as expected. So what's up with that? So if not rec.user or not rec.session. Oh, okay. So this might need to be like a return type of situation here. It's like it's trying to redirect. So that happens, but then because we didn't return and we called next, it actually went ahead and executed the controller method anyway, which caused us to get this little error here. So now if I, just to make it really obvious, if I restart the server and I go to localhost /today, we should just get redirected to the home page with no error. Yeah, okay. Simple fix. Let's do a fix to not run controller, or let's see, to stop executing when redirect. Oh, yes, sure. Kind of a weird commit message, but don't want to think about it too hard. Okie doke. So now we can actually go back to what I was thinking about in the first place, which is this notes file. Some of the things in this, what do I need to do to ship thing is probably what we're going to be working on today. So the manual, I actually did a little bit of work on the manual off stream as well, because as I've said before, I kind of don't like writing on stream. But if we actually look at the manual here, yeah, okay. So I wanted to make sure that this icon that I included in the text is like actually visible there. It's not very big, but whatever. That's fine. And I was thinking I might even put that here. I wonder what that looks like. Yeah, fine. Fine. Update manual. So I think most of the manual, I mean, it's pretty short. There's not really a lot to explain. So I think at this point, it's pretty much ready to go. I'm not going to spend too much more time on that unless I add new features that I want to include in the manual. So yeah, I went ahead and deleted it from here. Okay. So what else do we want to do now? It might be nice to do this aggregate analysis of historical data. But I also have some style UI adjustments that I kind of have been putting off doing. But let's start with this aggregate analysis and just continue putting off the style stuff. Okay, so if we think about it here, what is it that we want to implement? In the manage exercises, there's this historical view for a given exercise where you can see, basically there's charts that show you like the change over time for each of the parameter values. And then there's also this table. And, since I've been using this one for testing, it's got a bunch of sort of weird values in there, but normally this would look a little bit more normal. That, allows the user to compare stuff to their past results or whatever. So you've got the charts to like visualize it, and then you've got the table to like get specific numbers if that's what you want. There's also look back here, so you can pick, what look back range you want to actually see on the page. So I can go like all time and then see more data. Okay. So what we want to add is some aggregate statistics to this page. So for the period of time that we're looking back, like for instance, for weight here, it's like, what is the average of these values? Would be an interesting question. Or what is the max of these values? Stuff like that. So let's just do that. I'm not sure exactly how I want the UI to look, so I'm just going to put it in a table for now, and we can kind of go from there. So let's make a new table. And this one's not going to show the individual elements of historical data. It's going to show kind of the aggregate values. That's interesting what's going on here. There should be two. Yeah. Okay. So the actual parameters are going to be the rows, and then the columns are going to be the different types of aggregate values that we have for each parameter. It's kind of what makes sense to me. So, now I got to figure out what that means here. So this top one is going to just have some hard-coded values in here. So this would be like parameter, and then it could be like TD average, and let's just start with that. Okay. And then for the body, it would be like each parameter of parameters. We're going to have a row. The first element of that row is going to be the parameter name, param.name. And we would do it, I guess, like this. Let's fix that somehow. Get rid of those spaces. Okay. Those spaces we actually need. And then we would have like another TD which would be like the average for that parameter. Let's just say 1, 2, 3. Okay, so what's that going to look like now? It's going to look like this. So now we need to actually calculate what the average is for each of these things and put it in that table column. We're also going to want, let's do like max. And min, I guess, might as well. Sure. And then we could also do one where it's like the overall change, like from the first to the last, what is the amount that it changed? What would we call that? Like the total change? Sure. Okay. And so then here we would have some stuff. And let's say, we know this is going to need to be a value, and we'll just put these other ones in here as well. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. And this one is going to be the average. So let's actually take a step back and figure out how we're calculating these values before we do this. So if we look in this would be in the exercises router, right? There should be a historical route. Yeah. And so kind of in my head, what we probably want here is like another view object in here, which would be like, let's just call it analysis. And this would be an object where it's like, for each set ID, or for each parameter, it would have like an object with the values for that parameter. So if we go back here, like we have analysis parameter or param.id .average. And then these would be, the other things that we're analyzing here. So like max, min, and total change. Okay, but now we need to actually populate that object, of course. So this analysis is something that makes sense to me to go in the model. So I'm going to make a new model function here. And this could be like export function, analyze. And maybe this should actually go in the set one. It's kind of a fuzzy boundary here, but like say analyze historical set data. So let's see, if we look at the exercise here, like there's get exercises for user, yeah. So I think it would be in this sets function. And so here there would be something kind of similar to where we get sets for exercise. Well, actually, so let's say we already have the sets when we're doing this function. So it's going to be an array of sets that it accepts. So like an exercise, and sets, set. And I'm not going to be able to use that type. I forget what we call the sets type. What does this say it returns? It doesn't, but it's an array of sets. Okay. So if we look at the database schema, I think I declared a type for, yeah, it's just called exercise set. The problem with using set here is set is actually a built-in type in JavaScript already. Okay. So this is going to basically return an object where it's going to have average is something, and min is something, max is something, and total change is something. Okay. So I don't know if we're going to need the exercise object here as a parameter. Let's just take it out and see if we end up needing it. And oh yeah, this is going to need to return this for each parameter. Okay, so let's actually do it like this, like const, and now is this, whoops, is an empty object. And we would do like for const param of exercise dot parameters. Oops. Exercise dot parameters. You know, there's a funny thing where on my work computer, my keyboard mapping is like got the Alt button basically for like the Apple key. So like if I want to undo something, I do like Alt Z, whereas on my personal Windows computer, which is what I'm using now, it's like Control Z. So every now and then I hit Alt Z instead. And then it opens up like this AMD like thingy on the sidebar where it's like, hey, here's some stuff. Anyway, so that's what just happened. Okay, so we need to exercise. And kind of the idea here, like you might say, why do you need the exercise? Because the sets each have a parameter object on them already. But it could be that the parameters for the exercise is actually changed since the sets were created. Some of the sets might not have all of the parameters set. The source of truth for the parameters for the exercise is this exercise.parameters object. So we need to make sure to actually use that. And then here we would do like analysis param.id equals this thing. And we're going to return analysis. Okay. And what's this complaining about? It's complaining about this not being, so let's call this, wrong place to put that type. Let's put it here. Let's call it historical analysis. And we can define this interface here to explain what we're building. So this is going to be, let's actually export. Yeah, so this seems fine. Let's call this like parameter, historical parameter analysis. So this is going to have average, number, min, number. I guess I should be using semicolons, max, number, and total change, number. And I don't think any of these would ever be optional. In theory, if there's absolutely no data, then it's like these can't really return anything though, I guess. So maybe I will make them optional. And then if we do like export type historical analysis without the parameter, that's going to be a record of, can I do parameter ID? Is that a thing? No. So just string and historical parameter analysis. Okay, so now TypeScript knows the type of this object, and the return value for this function. So now we need to actually calculate these things, right? So we've got the parameter, and we can get our values here. Let's kind of just do that first. So if we say like const values equals sets.map set dot parameters param.id. And it's possibly null, so let's do the question mark dot null coalescing. Okay, so now we have our values, which is an array of possible parameter value or undefined. And then we could just do like dot filter v, not v. Or really you could even just do v like that. So now the values can't be undefined. It seems like the type hasn't figured that out though. What if I do like v not equal undefined? Is that going to make the type better? Yeah. Cool. So now values is an array of these parameters. If something doesn't have, like if a set doesn't have a value for a given parameter, we just want to ignore that. So that makes sense. And then, like the min would be just like, well, math.min dot values. Does that work? Well, it would work, but I need to actually coerce these into getting the actual values, right? Okay, let's see. So let's do another map here actually. So for the value, and maybe, well, yeah, let's do this before the filter. And I'll just put these on some new lines to make it a little more readable. I'm sure that Prettier is going to do that for me automatically anyway. Okay, so we've got a value, and the value here, like we should be able to see the parameter value type. And so like this could have a dot value. Yeah, that's fine. Or it could have v dot min. And I guess we could do something like this, like v as weight dot value, v as duration dot min. We got to import these. Dot minutes, is it? Minutes. Or let's see. Let's see what else there is here. So we've got weight is a value, distance is a value, duration. We have these other fields, but we're only using minutes. Numeric is value and intensity is value. So everything is value. Okay. Intensity is going to be an interesting one, actually. I feel like we're not really going to be able to do the normal analysis on intensity. So maybe I will just do a little bit of a short circuit here where I could do like if param.name or .id, or let's say param.datatype is intensity, then we're just going to do analysis param.id equals average null, min, and I guess it would need to be undefined. Undefined. And really, if I'm doing that, I guess I'll just return an empty object or do an empty object here. And then this would have like a continue. So what this is saying is if the data type is intensity, like we can't really analyze it, just return an empty object. If it's not intensity, then we can, extract these values here. So this would be, V number, so this should end up as an array of numbers. Yeah. Okay. So easy enough to get the min of that like this, and we could do math.max of that as well. Something like the average, I don't know. Well, let's just see. Math.mean, no. Array dot something, probably not. Yeah, I don't think there's like a convenient way to do that, so it's something we'll have to calculate ourselves. So let's say, what's the best way to do this? Let's just do const average equals values.reduce. And our callback function here will have an average that we're accumulating as well as the current value. And we're going to add the current value divided by values.length to the average each time, and that should get us the average, right? Hopefully. Or we could do, I don't know which is really better or if it really matters, but we could just accumulate the sum and then divide it by values.length here. Technically fewer divisions. And yeah, I don't know if there's like a dot sum. No, I don't think so. We can just use reduce. Okey-doke. So we've got our average. And there's more efficient ways that somebody could do this by looping over the array of values fewer times, but I'm not going to worry about that at the moment. Our total change is actually just the max minus the min, or no. It's the first minus the last. So these sets should be sorted by date, but we don't necessarily know that. Yeah, I should probably sort these. If I do like a .to sorted, and really we just want to do, actually we need to do this up here. We need to sort it before we extract the value. So like S1, S2, it would be like S1.date, and it should return a negative value if the first argument is less. So the first argument is less when it's earlier. So it should be like S1.date minus S2.date, basically. But the date's a string. There's also the order. It's kind of annoying to have to sort those. I mean, we could like if we look at the actual historical thing, which is this function here, it already has the order by date and then order. So maybe we will just leave out this sorting logic for now. Just kind of assume that it's pre-sorted. And then if it is pre-sorted, the total change would just be like the first one minus the last one. So total change is like values 0 minus, or no, it would be values dot length minus 1 minus values 0. And we could also do something up here where like if the data type is intensity, or actually we would do the same thing down here basically, where we could say if values dot length equals 0, then we can't analyze that either. Okay, so let's just see what that looks like now when we actually use it in our view. So in the controller exercises thing, our analysis here is going to be, what did we even call this function again? Analyze historical set data. Analyze historical set data of historical sets. What are we complaining about here? Oh, we also need the exercise. Okay. And then if we look at the view, we're, using those analysis things there. So let's see what this looks like. Something interesting here. So the max and min seems all right, although I do almost want them to be reverse order here. It feels like min should be first. I don't know, these averages that's obviously not right. But it's kind of interesting. So like, let's look at the weight one. Like, how did we get that number? We're adding up these kilogram values. So one potential thing that just occurred to me is it could be that these values are not actually with a consistent unit. Which is annoying. But I can do the let's see, what is their function here? Default unit and convert unit. Yeah. So for each of these values, basically, if it's minutes, that's fine. If it's, I might make this more of an actual function here instead of just an expression, allow it to have multiple statements in it. So we could say like if what's the best way to do this? I feel like I'm kind of rewriting some of these functions or reusing some of this logic, but that's okay. We can fix that later. So basically we're going to want to conditionally get a value based on like what the type of the parameter is. So like if param dot data type equals intensity, or no, we already filtered that one out, equals duration, then we would just return v dot minutes. like that. And then we would have another one where it's like, and I mean, we could do a switch case kind of thing here. Switch param.datatype case duration or distance, no, duration. Oh, because that already has a case up there. Interesting. So if I do this, yeah, that does work. Okay, so if it's duration, then we return that. If it's intensity, we don't need to handle. Distance and weight, we're going to handle consistently. Let's just do number first. So this would be return v as number, or no, v as numeric dot minutes or dot value. And if it's a distance or a weight, then we're going to do this other thing. And got somebody in the chat to ban. Yeah. I don't know why exactly, but I get these like spammers in chat. I don't know if that's like a common thing or if there's something I'm supposed to do about that, but whatever. Okay. So for these two, we're actually going to need to handle some unit stuff. So basically it's going to be return, or like, let's say const be as weight. Kind of doesn't really matter if it's distance or weight. And then I could call this like I don't really care what I call it, I guess. And then we're going to return something convert unit on v1.value. And it's going to be from v1.unit. And it's going to be to default unit of param.datatype and user. And what's the problem here? Don't know. But I mean, one problem I know is we need the user in here. User. And so now argument of type string or null. So why does this return null if the data type is not one of those things? So I'm just going to exclamation point that to say it's never going to be null. And then we can add like a default case here where it's just return undefined. Okay. And this is returning a string, whereas what we really want is a number. So I might just do like number cast it here. Okay, let's see what that looks like now. Error. Okay, so one thing here is like we need to be like if not v return undefined. Now what? Oh, I forgot to pass in the user, of course. Got to pass in the user here. Okay. So we fixed our casting issue, but we still have some other issues here. Let's see. So one of them is, this, like I want to have some sig figs on these, or, like not have just so many decimal places. So I'll probably do that right in here, actually. So like this average could be like average dot to precision. What happens if I do like to precision 3, say? Oh, it's returning a number. Yeah, okay, let's not do that here. Because it kind of depends on the view. What if we do that, for example? What if we do that, for example? Oh yeah, Pug doesn't like that. Oh, Pug. Let's actually do this. So let's say we're going to have I think it's a dash to put in some code. So it's like var let's just make it something short. And then these would all just be like that. But we also need to be like, v. If there is a v, then do that. Otherwise do, I think a dash is what we did in the other place. I guess I need to do that for all of them here. Let's just do it like this. And we could do dot min, dot max, and dot total change. Okay. Another weird error, very inexplicable. What is it complaining about? Yeah, it is the dash to like assign values like that. That is right. I don't think they need to be indented under that at all. Maybe this has to be like v.average. Average. Same thing here, like v.min, dot max, and dot total change. Yeah, okay. Okay, so now if there isn't something, it's going to do a dash. But the problem is this is potentially falsy. So I actually need to do this. And I guess this would be not equals. And not equals here. And not equals here. Okay. But we're still getting some pretty bizarre values. So first of all, the total change, I mean, let's actually look at what we've got here. Like for, say for reps, the first one has reps of 1. And then the last one has reps of 0. Okay, so I see one problem here. So if we look at reps here, the total change -1, that's actually right. So that's good. The max is 1, 2, 3, which is correct. The min is 0, which is correct. The average seems about right? Because it's like 0 plus 1 plus 1, 2, 3 divided by 3. Gotta put those in parentheses. Yeah. So that is the average. Cool. And this to precision, actually maybe to fixed. Is that better? Yeah, because I really want the decimal places to be the thing that we're controlling here, not the sig figs, technically. Okay. And oh yeah, these need to be 1. Okay. So that's fine. Weight and distance are obviously not working for some reason. So we got to figure that out. I guess because this is returning, well, it should be a number, right? Values, param.id, values. Let's see what we actually have in here. Okay, so for weight, say, the values are actually fine. 145.6, 189.6, etc. The problem is that there is this not a number sitting in there. And, you know, when we add not a number to all these other numbers, it's like you end up with not a number. So it's basically that one not a number is the apple that spoils the bunch or whatever. For duration, this is interesting too, because here we've got some values that are strings and some that are not. And this is kind of an example of where, as I've been changing this stuff over time, we're ending up with some kind of weird values in the system because I haven't been cleaning up my old sets after updating the data schema and stuff. I think, like if I were to log a new set today, and just give 1, 2, 3 of each of these things in medium, sure. And then if we go back to the historical stuff for that set, and look at this now. So we can see the latest values for these are all numbers. So they should be numbers. The fact that the duration used to be a string is something that I don't really want to program against here because it's not going to be a string anymore. Which basically means what I'm going to have to do is delete these old sets. So one way I could delete the old sets is by manually going in to delete them. Like I can go here and like click this X to remove them one at a time, but I'm actually just going to remove them en masse from the database. It's just going to be a little faster. Or no, yeah, that's fine. Okay, sets. So we've got all these sets here. I'm going to delete all of them. They're all associated with my user, obviously, because this is just my local testing environment. And let's see, how do I delete? Like that? Yeah. And then we want to commit that change. Cool. So now, if I refresh this, there's no set. Let's add one here. Let's just do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and medium. This is going to be very simple. So now if I go, no historical data, it doesn't even give me a link to the page if there's no historical data. But I can go here. Okay, so what do we have? How are things looking now? So intensity, I don't really know. I mean, I got to kind of figure out how to do that. It's not like it's impossible. Like the min and max, we could figure out, right? Makes sense. Average kind of makes sense too. And total change, it kind of makes sense, but it's going to be more complicated to figure out the intensity than the other ones. So just going to hold off on that for now. Okay, so let's get rid of this console log here. So this seems fine. Now that we've gotten rid of our weird values, let's do some more things. So if I do another one here where, we'll say, let's actually do these as 100. And then here, these are going to be 0. And let's see what that looks like now. Okay, so we've got our min 0, max 100, total change negative 100, because we started at 100 and went to 0. Seems about right. Average 50, as we'd expect, seems about right. If I do another one, what happened here? What the heck did happen here? Undefined is not an object. Evaluating v.value or v.minutes.toString. Okay. Let's look at the today page. What's going on with that? This is saying line 38. But the actual thing that it has here, v.value or v.minutes.toString, is not actually on line 38. Where is that? It's down here. So what is the problem? Obviously, v is undefined. So there's a parameter. What? So why would that be? Let's in the today page, well, let's actually just look in the database since we have this open already. See what we've got. So we've got 3 sets. Obviously, the 2 that we were using, and then the third one that we created there. These 2 seem fine. This one, the parameters object is empty, which is what we would expect. Why did it all of a sudden not work here? Because it worked when we created the first or the second one. It's got the right exercise associated with it, right? Yeah, 25. Yeah, interesting. Okay, well, it's kind of confusing because the set.parameters for that set should actually be an object with nothing in it. So the reduce should not actually be doing anything, right? Set.parameters id v. Let's look over here. Oh, okay. So maybe v is a thing, but v.value or v.minutes is not a thing. But when would that be? Let's just see. Oh, actually, so this is, wait. Okay, let's see here. So there is a v that's undefined. Oh, so this is, okay. So the problem here is value is 0, which is actually falsy. And so it evaluates v.minutes, which is actually undefined. So we should be doing something different here. And again, this is an example of like where, you know, there's some kind of duplicate logic here. If value is not undefined, then v.value, else v.minutes. That should fix it, right? Yeah. But there's something kind of funny here where we've got multiple places in our code where we're trying to basically parse out these parameter value objects into like numbers. And there's a little bit of different context in the different situations, but I feel like there's some duplication here that we might want to take care of at some point. But for now, anyway, fix that. I don't really know why that was. Oh, because these were zeros, maybe. It was complaining about that for some reason. Let's set that to low. So these I was going to do zeros again, actually. And this would be low. And let's look at the historical data. So now we've got, you know, the average is fine, min, max, total change, all seems fine. So this is good. But it's pretty basic. So it's a good starting point. What are some other things we might want to calculate? Let's see. So, I mean, you know, some obvious choices would be somebody could do like the median and the mode. Somebody could do like the percentiles, like the 90th percentile or whatever. But I feel like when people are looking at their exercises, they don't really care about that kind of analysis. Like you don't really, I mean, even the average, it's like, who cares? Ultimately, people are probably not going to be interested in like, okay, what was my average exercise, you know, the average number of sets for this exercise. It's like, usually you care more about like the more recent numbers. But one of the things that people do care about is like the max, for example, because this is like your personal best for that parameter. But there's other things too, like if you have reps and weight, you might be interested in like your 1-rep max. I'm not sure the best way to actually do that without starting to get really specific, because like these analyses, if I didn't have some of these parameters, it's like the rows would just be gone from the table, right? That's simple enough. But if I wanted to start having more intelligent analysis where it's like, if you have this parameter and either weight or assisted, then you could do the 1-rep max. But then where does that like even go in this table? It doesn't really fit anymore. But I might actually include it anyway. Maybe. But I feel like people could just look at this max value. I don't know. I think this might be okay for now. I'm sure I'll come back with some more analysis later. But I'm just going to start with what we've got here. So let's see. Adding the analysis to the view. This is a code to actually do the analysis. Do I have any console.logs in here still? Nope. Yeah, we can add this. The historical, adding the table. And the today page, that's a separate commit. This is like a bug. Okay, so add some basic analysis to history page. Okay, and then here we've got fix bug when value is 0. Okay. What's next? So I could do more analysis. I could do more stuff on this page, but I'm just going to leave that for now. I do sort of want to think about this number parsing stuff though. Like I feel like there's definitely something here. Like let's take this logic and try to pull this out into a function and see if that feels useful. So this is a sync function. So just export function, get numeric value for v, which is a parameter value. And we would also need probably the param, which is the parameter definition. Okay, and this would be returning a number or undefined if it can't get the value. And what do we want to do for case intensity? I'm thinking I'm actually going to return a kind of a mapping here. So if we, like I want to map these intensities to a number, basically is what I'm thinking. If we look at the all intensities function here, so the order of this array is what's going to determine the numeric value for each intensity, if that makes sense. So we could do like return all intensities dot find index where, and really it should be like, the problem with this is we've got, we're looping over this array each time we have an intensity value to check. We probably should be making like a map. but whatever. There's only like 3 things in the array, so iterating over it's really not that big of a deal. So here we've got v.id equals what? v.value. And this is going to have to be something else like i.id, I guess. This is why I don't like having like single letter names for the function parameters themselves. So let's actually just do this here. And then we can use our single I is actually still fine there. And this would be like value as intensity value. Or no, just intensity. Yeah, so this would be, and then we would add 1 to that, let's say. And maybe I'll do it like this. Don't know if it really matters. Might look a little better though. No, well, whatever. Okay, so 1 plus the index here. So, if it's low, say the intensity value is low, then this find index function is going to return 0. And then we're going to add 1 to that to get 1. And so with this, we can kind of do a little bit of math on these intensities, even though they're not necessarily, floating point values. It's like we've got some discrete integers here that we could do some math on if we want. Okay, so get numeric value. Fine. So now down here, this map would just be map get numeric value. Well, no, actually, we need to pass in some other parameter here. V param, right? And like this, I could say like, or undefined, let's say. So if that is undefined, this does handle that case by returning undefined. So that should be fine. Okay, so now we have that kind of reusable function. And I feel like there's some other places that I want to use that. So let's maybe see if we can simplify any of our other code. So like I'm thinking, I don't know, not really. Part of the problem is like for this right here, for example, we could use get numeric value, except for intensity where we actually don't want to get the numeric value. Maybe instead of numeric value, I could call this something like get raw value, and then intensity could actually just return the intensity value. Yeah, that should be okay. Let's comment this out in case we want it later. And I will return value as intensity dot value. And so here, this is actually returning a string. So this would be like number or intensity value or undefined. And we would call this get raw value. So if we did that, first of all, we could do this and like, let's just do this as number or undefined because we know that it's never going to be intensity because we filter those out here. And the point of that, why am I getting an error? Where's error? Oh, here, the user. Can I find name user? Okay. Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of this either, but whatever. So this is going to need user. Okay. Kind of the problem is we need to pass the user through in order for it to know how to actually convert the unit to what the user is expecting to see. Okay, so, the point of that now, like if we have that get raw value function, we should be able to use that here. Like we could say var value, or we could even just maybe like m, or yeah, let's say var value equals get raw value v parameter user. And then this would basically be like if value m id equals value dot to string. And then we could get rid of all that and that, right? So basically what we're doing here is we're getting the raw value for the parameter, and then if we have one, we're putting it in our, this object here. Okay, let's see what that looks like. So in order for this to work, this get raw value is going to need to go into our view bag. And now that I've refactored our code a little bit, I don't remember where my view bag is. Here we go. This is just making the function available in the view. So now, let's see. Okay, so now we're getting a bunch of, oh yeah, right. So it can't do this if value. It would need to be like if value not equals undefined. So we're not clearing out all those zeros. Okay. I mean, that seems pretty good. If I, set this to like 123.5 and refresh, it's properly being set in there. If I open my settings and switch this to pounds and refresh, yeah, we get the updated values in pounds. Cool. And also, if I look over here, these should have like the updated values in pounds as well. Okay. Okay. So that's one or two places in the code where we can use this get raw value function, right? There's here, and there was also here. So yeah, just gonna not worry about the intensity here yet. So other places we could possibly use this. I feel like these charts could also use that as well. So if we look, for example, at this historical page here, we build the charts with this business, which is fine. But if we actually look at the build chart logic, which is, where is that? I guess, no, it's not this. Oh, here it is. I had to scroll up. Okay. So we've got the actually client side logic up here or down here where it's extracting the value from the parameter value And this kind of works, but it also, it's basically replicating the logic from that get raw values function. And it's not like doing the unit conversion properly or anything either. So like these, for instance, this is like at 100, which is fine, but or let's look at like weight, for example. We've got like weight 100. If we look over here, it should be 220, right? And if we look down here, like it shows 220 and 273, but up here it actually shows the value in kilograms. So that's a bug we need to fix because this code is duplicated, but it's not correct or whatever. So there's kind of two approaches here that I could take to fix that. One is this get raw value function could actually be imported from the client. Because we're using a bundler, it should be possible to do that, but it would have to be abstracted into a separate file, maybe even a JavaScript file that would be imported on the client and the server. That feels a bit awkward. A better option may be, and if I had like a TypeScript in my code bundler for the client, maybe this wouldn't be as much of a problem to share code between the client and the server. But a better option maybe would be to actually just do that on the server in the view and have the build chart function accept like a pre-parsed array of sets, basically. Pre-extracted, or whatever we want to call that. So what would that be? So we've got this historical sets, which is an array, and we want to map for each set, we want to get raw value. Or no, for each set, we want to map that Let's see. So let's yeah, I mean, okay. So here's what I'm thinking. So what we need to do is basically like for const p of set dot of s dot parameters. S dot parameters p of object dot enters. And this would be like ID v, I guess. ID equals get raw value v kind of thing. And then this would also need a parameter. And it would also need the user, which we already know the user. The parameter we might need to find somehow. Let's look at what this build chart function actually does. It's been a while since I've worked with this. So it goes through each parameter and constructs the chart. That is maybe okay, but it could also accept the parameter as a parameter. And then it doesn't even need the exercise anymore because all we're using that for is iterating over exercise.parameters. And then we can actually just get rid of the for loop here. And then let's see, sets. So this needs the date. And an array of values. Let's call this set values instead of sets. And this would be set, well, whatever, we can just call it sets, fine. Okay. So then over here, this script, we're actually going to have one script per parameter. So this would be indented like that. And we don't need the exercise at all. Oh, but we do need the parameter, right? So this would be param. And then here, it's like for each, maybe we won't even need that. Let's see. So for each set, we're going to return date is set.date. And then also values, let's say, is s.parameters or just value, right? s.parameters dot find or no, parameters is an object, right? So it would just be param.id, and then this would be like get raw value. Param user. Okay, get rid of this. Okay, so this is going to have a bunch of separate build chart calls, and it's going to use the parameter. Let's look at the build chart again here. So what is the param used for? Labeling the thing. Okay, so we do need to still pass that in, but this is actually going to be sets.map set.value. Okay, not happy with that. What are we complaining about? Unexpected token. Oh, okay. Okay, so this is not a fan of the way that I... What is it not a fan of? I don't know. But for one thing, this doesn't need to be, we could just simplify this a little bit, right? Unexpected token. Let's just see if I just do this temporarily, put it all in one line again. Is it still going to complain? No. Okay. And we can see now that these are actually having the proper values in there, which is nice. So I'm just going to leave this in one line, whatever. Okay. Cool. So now we've got that raw values being used here as well. And this is made somewhat simpler. And we fixed that bug. So let's add that and this and this, this, and this. Build reusable get raw values function and use it. Sure. So the other thing to think about with this raw values function now is this table down here. So as far as I know, there's no actual bugs with this table down here. And let's actually look at how that is done. It's got this display string for table function. Right. So let's take a look at that. So display string for table. Where is that coming from? So this is using display string to get the thing. So I mean, there's an argument that this display string should actually be using that numeric thingy too. Like we would do like const raw value equals get raw value. And then it would be like value param user. And then like this would be that. Oh, but this is, yeah. Maybe they're different enough that I'm not going to try and duplicate them, or deduplicate them, I should say. Basically, we've got like a function for returning like a string version, and then we've got another function for returning like a numeric-ish version, which is fine. I don't know if there's anywhere else that we would actually need that numeric-ish version. Obviously here. Oh, maybe also in the today page. We have a table there as well. The historical data table. Where's that? Down here. So like this is a case where we might want to use that as well. Oh, but this is using that same display string for table, so that should be fine. Okay. Okie doke. And one other thing we can kind of see here is like these maybe should have units on them as well. Would be nice. But that's kind of a different commit. So let's actually just do this commit here. Twink. And then in the historical page, for each of these things, we would also include what's the best way to do this? Display string. I don't really like that this is here and this is here, but whatever. So I kind of want to use this like display string for table function in the table of aggregate data, basically, is what I'm thinking. The problem is the value here is actually a parameter value. You know, it's not just some number. So what I might want to do is have something where it's like display raw value for table. And here the value would be string or number, maybe. What is this complaining about? Right, sure. Yeah, I don't really know what to call this exactly. So the unit, we know what the unit should be. Okay, let's think about this from a slightly different angle, because the API for this function is a little confusing. If we look at the historical page here. Basically, what we're going to want to do here is call some function, display raw value for table, and it's going to get this v.average, which might be undefined or it might be a number. And it's also going to need to know a unit, potentially. And in order to know the unit, it's going to need the param, or at least the param.data type, but usually I just pass through the whole param in these situations. And it's also going to need to know the user, because all these things are going to need the user to figure out the actual data type. And yeah, so that's the first one is a number or a string, we can say, and then param and then user. Okay. So let's do, it doesn't really matter the order of these things. They should be consistent, but they're already not. I'm not going to fix that at the moment. So we've got value param user. The value is a number or a string. Display value equals type of value number, then value dot to fixed 2 or 1 is what we're doing here, right? Otherwise, just value. And so we're going to do like display value. So if there's a display value and there's a display unit, and we're going to need to figure out, so const display unit is going to be default unit for param.datatype and user. So if there is a display value and a display unit, then we're going to do them both like that. Otherwise, we're just going to do the value if there's only a value. Otherwise, we'd do a dash like that. Okay, so that's fine. Now it's redundant with this one down here. Is there a way that we can avoid that? Like if this did like return display raw value per table. Oops, display raw value for table. We already know the param, of course. I don't know what. And the value is going to be display dot value. It's a bit odd because this display string is also calculating the unit, which we don't really need it to, because this other function is also calculating the unit. But it should be okay. And it should reduce our duplication a little bit. Oh, okay. Yeah, I gotta fix up my stuff here. So this goes away. This is the same thing, but with v.min, v.max, and v.total change. Min, max, and total change. Oh, right. And then this also has to be put into our view bag under router. Yep, and this needs importing. Okay, so now we actually have our numbers in there. and our units and everything, and it seems fine. And if I go over here and switch this to kilograms, then those are now kilogram values. Cool. Okay. Maybe not perfect abstraction, but I feel like we're getting a little bit better here. There's a lot of the complexity here is around handling these basically polymorphic parameters, where it's like a parameter value can have a bunch of different shapes and you kind of need to handle it differently in these different situations and stuff. But the more that we can abstract that into reusable functions, the easier it'll be to have consistent behavior throughout the whole app. Okay, so let's say create and use function. Yeah, okay. So the other kind of problem maybe that I want to fix while I'm here, this is a pretty minor thing, but so like get raw value returns or expects like param, value, or value, param, and user. Okay. And usually I like to do it this way where the parameter, the first parameter for the function is the value that's being transformed. It's sort of like the main value, you know. In this case, it's like we're getting the raw value. What are we getting the raw value of? This parameter value object. The parameter and the user are still needed in order to do that calculation, but they're sort of like additional, you know, they're adjunct parameters. Another way of thinking about that is like if we were executing this in some sort of broader context, those would be like part of that context, not part of this specific function call. I don't know if that makes sense, but makes sense in my head. But if we look, you know, say over here, this one is param, value, and then user. So the value and the parameter, you know, spots are swapped, which is not the best. And then up here, I did value, param, user. So I want these to be flip-flopped, basically is what I'm getting at here. Like that. And if I find all instances of display string for table, and I need to flip-flop these, and get rid of that. And then also down here, again, flip-flop these. I guess I should include the comma like that. And this is the definition. Don't need to change anything there. And don't need to change anything there either. Okay, so that's value param user. Then display string here, again, is going to be value param user. And where is display string used? The reason I'm doing a find like this, by the way, is if it's used in like a pug view, that's not going to show up if I do like a find all references. Like this is a good way to find references in your TypeScript files, but it's not going to find them in pug, which is why I'm doing the search anyway. So, but this one is only actually used in this display string for table function, which, you know, is a little bit, it's maybe a sign that these could be abstracted differently again, but I'm not going to change that at the moment. So here we're updating. And one other thing while I'm at it as well is I want this, I want some of these like these parameter display raw value things. Like I feel like these should go actually under sets rather than exercises. Like that. And any other errors in this file? Nope. Errors in this file? Nope. I can get rid of a bunch of these though. Unused imports. And then here we actually have an error, right? Because let's actually just get rid of those 3 and then re-import them here. Did it work? Add all missing imports. Yeah, okay, so now those are coming in from the sets one. I don't know if this is exactly the right thing, but it makes sense to me. There's almost like exercises and sets are almost like these are the models, but then there's another thing which is like parameters, parameter related functions that maybe could be abstracted into its own module at some point. But I'm not doing that now. Okay, and then that should be fine, right? Let's see if we broke anything. Okay, this still seems fine. Still seems, yeah, medium, low, high. Okay. This one still seems to be rendering fine. You know, that one's fine too, of course. If I like change one of these, say I change that to 100, that updated fine, and it updated over here fine. Average is correct stuff as well. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't think we broke anything. So let's call this make parameter value related functions, function APIs more consistent. Related. Okay. Okie doke. Some decent progress has been made. This we kind of did. So I'm just going to say that's checked off for now. Good enough for me. Okay. So what else do we want to do here? Might be nice to do some dark mode responsive view fixes or some style UI adjustments. Let's just do a few of those before I wrap up today. So one of the things I want to adjust in particular is the header, this set thing. So let's actually look at the layout here. So we've got, navbar item, like it's underneath this navbar brand thing, but it still looks just the same as any of the others. Let's look at the Bulma. Kind of what I would like would be for this set to be like sort of even just like bolded, like emphasized or something to call it out from the other things, which are just like navigation. Just out of curiosity, if I look at the mobile view, it's a bit odd because of the long title, but anyway, it's the other things all go under this like drop down, but the set one stays over there. So it's being treated properly, kind of. Okay, so it kind of seems like this navbar item is what we've got here. Let's see if it has anything else to say about the brand. We might just have to style that ourselves, is the impression that I'm getting. Gosh, there's a lot of stuff here. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, whatever. So we'll probably just have to style this ourselves. Oh, so what do we want that to be like? I mean, I could just put it in an EM. It'd be like EM set like that. Or not, yeah, I guess a strong if we want it to be bolded. Yeah, but you know, it looks kind of odd. I feel like a better option is to actually make a new class for this. So like this would be dot set brand. Seems fine. And then in our CSS, we can add something for that. Alternatively, we could maybe use some kind of Bulma thing. Like a typography thing, maybe. You know, like we could make it bigger with like is size 5, say, or is size 4. Kind of why I like to use the Bulma stuff if possible is, you know, Bulma has like theming and type, well, theming, and also like you can get like consistent sizing across your different elements without kind of having to manage that in the CSS yourself. So if we make that bigger, you know, it does look a little odd. Let me see here. If I inspect this navbar brand height is 52. If I undo that, the height is still 52. So it's not, oops. It's not totally messing it up. It no longer like looks properly aligned with the others though, which is kind of part of the point. But the baseline of the text isn't right, which kind of makes it look weird. Might be hard to avoid that. Also, like with the set brand thing, I kind of want to maybe have this be like text transform. Let's see what this looks like. Or what is the thing where it's like font style? No. There's like a small caps thing. Sometimes I like that. Let's see what. Indian small caps. Font variant, right? Font variant, small caps. Just kind of curious what that looks like. And then, you know, we would do like text transform lowercase. That looks weird. What if we do uppercase? That looks fine. But then if it's uppercase, we don't really need the small caps. Yeah, we could just do text transform uppercase. Doesn't look too bad. At least it kind of stands out. One other thing maybe is like we could adjust the weight a little bit. Sometimes I feel like these look better if they're like slightly underweight, like that. I actually kind of like that. The alternative is we could make it overweight, like if we do 600 or 500, say. You know, that one seems fine too. Let's just leave it like that for now. So that's, you know, stands out a little bit better. If we do the mobile view, you know, it still is fine, of course. And we could call this like adjust or improve brand styling. Okay. One other thing that might be nice would be like for these buttons and icons and things to not look so weird. So if I switch this to light mode, doink, these look a lot better, I feel like. You know, the drag and drop anchor, that's what this is, a drag and drop anchor. It just fits in with the background. You know, it's white on white. If we do this, though, it becomes like white on black, which looks just not right. And these other ones are the same way, where it's like they just look the same, I feel like, on both. So well, actually looks like a little different in the dark mode, but it just stands out too much. In the dark mode, so we kind of have some options for that. Maybe there's some way of doing it with the built-in Balma things that's like a little smarter. So this is the today page. Let's look at these buttons here. So that's like this one. So for example, if I take off this is light, then that actually looks pretty good in the dark mode. But if I switch it to light mode, I mean, it doesn't look too bad in light mode either. Dark mode, light mode. It's just not quite right. And I mean, really using these buttons like this is kind of annoying to begin with. I'm not a huge fan of that. In the first place, so I don't know how much time I want to spend on fixing that. If I switch it to is light, and then switch it back to light mode, definitely looks the best like that in light mode. So anyway, basically we could either try to pick one set of classes that works best for both light and dark mode, or we could try and conditionally apply classes based on the mode. Or using CSS, we could conditionally apply, you know, we could have like a selector where it's like select this, you know, whatever class and like do something different for dark mode and light mode using like the media selector for that or whatever it is. So we could do that. But again, I kind of want to, I don't really like this whole interaction to begin with where there's these buttons and this X and stuff. I don't know the best way to do that. So I don't want to spend too much time on that. The drag and drop one is kind of similar where I'm like, well, do we even need an anchor at all? Is I guess what I'm thinking about that. So what even is that? So we've got this grip vertical icon handle button thing. If we just get rid of that, then it's gone, which is fine. But now we can't drag these at all. But we could maybe fix that over here with this make sortable. So this accepts this handle if we don't pass that in. Then now we should be able to drag it with just by clicking anywhere in the row and dragging it. And I mean, you know, it's still, you can still click, right? So it's not really breaking any of our interactivity. But if you click and hold and drag, then it moves. I feel like this is actually fine. And if I view it in responsive mode here, I should, you know, I can like click, that's fine. But if I click and drag, I can like move that whole set around. Yes, I like it. Okay, just get rid of that. Okay, so let's do that. Remove drag handle, resets. And, we can always add that back in if this turns out to be irritating to use from a UI perspective, but I feel like this is not actually bad. The only problem is it's not really obvious that you actually can drag them. I do mention that in the manual, but, most people are not going to be reading the manual, nor should they have to in order to understand how it works. But it's okay for now. I like it better than having that weird handle. So then we have these other two icons to deal with, these two buttons here. And let's get some historical or some more interesting sample data. So this dumbbell curl one, I'm actually going to rename this to everything. And I'm going to make a new one, one param, and, just check off reps. I kind of want to make like an exercise for like each number of parameters here and kind of see what that's like. So 2 params, 3 params, dunk, 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 4 params, dunk, 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 5 params, dunk, 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 dunk. Okay. Okay, so now if we go back to the today page, these are called everything. We don't need all these sets anymore because we were just using those to test averages. And I'm going to add one of each of these. So 1 param, 2 params, 3 params, 4 params, and 5 params. And we can kind of see what's going on here. So also, if we look at this in mobile view, it's a bit janky, right? So I kind of want to figure out some of this. So one of the things to figure out here is the buttons, like I talked about. Another one is the size difference. So you can see there's this like gap here. If we actually inspect that gap, the cell is taking up that gap, but the control inside it, the select, is actually not taking up the full width. And I don't know why that is. Like this select here, that is not what I expected. So that's kind of what I want it to look like that. And then when that's like in this view, it's going to be properly aligned. Like that everything should be kind of aligned with all the others. The problem is, how do we get Bulma to do that in a way where we're not writing a bunch of custom styles? Would be nice. So here we've got that control. And we've got the select. So let's look at that select alpine mixin. Because if we look again here, like the actual control, well, let's refresh this so we get rid of our custom styles here. The actual control is the proper full width. It's the select underneath it that's not. And there's going to be times when we don't want the select to be a full width though. So let's look at the docs for select. Form, select. I seem to recall there's like a full width option here. No, there's not. Okay. I think there was maybe for general. Is there like full? If you want a full width select dropdown, pair control is expanded with select is full width. Is this what I need to do here? I don't know, but this is full width, I think is the thing here. So let's just do this. Out of curiosity, see what that looks like here. Okay, so now our selects are the proper widths. The problem is there's other spots where it's not gonna, we don't want it to be full width, like down here. But up here, it's nice and aligned. I really like that. So this needs to be optionally full width. Now, if I look at the select Alpine, where are all the places this is used? There, 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 and there. So nowhere do we actually use this and attributes thing. So I'm actually going to move that up here. And then I think we could do, like if we go to the select Alpine thing here, we could, how does it work again? It's like and, or it's like something class equals is full width. Something weird like that. Yeah. yeah, okay. It kind of worked. Did it work? So now this one has a full width, and this one does not. And then I need to add this is full width class thing down here as well. Yes. So now that should be the full width of the thing as well. Okay. Okay, cool. That seems good. Let's commit that as well. Just doing some granular commit changes here. Fix width of selects in today page. Okay. So now if we actually go to the mobile view, I feel like it makes it a lot more readable when these things are like aligned. But we still have these weird issue of these button things. And basically the way these are working is they're within a cell. So like if I look at this, there's a cell for these buttons. They don't take up the whole cell, but they fit with like the rest of the grid, kind of, because of that. Now, part of the problem is I don't really want to put them over here because then they're going to take up too much space in that grid cell. And I don't really want to put them in this grid cell because they're not going to take up enough space in that grid cell. I could put them like all the way over here, but then when you look in the responsive view, it's going to look misaligned with the grid cells in the other rows. So having them at the end feels like the best. I don't like how if you have all 6 things selected, it rolls over to the next line, but this case is actually really rare. Obviously in mobile, it's going to roll over if you have even just one parameter. But on desktop, it shouldn't really have to roll over. And this seems fine. So then, if we say, okay, we're fine with this actually staying the way it is, how about the styling for these buttons? And, we might, there might end up being an additional button in here at some point in the future. There's no guarantee about that. I feel like if there was a third button, it would look better. But whatever. Let's just say we're going to keep this as is now, and we want to fix these styles to work better in dark mode. Okay, so dark mode, dark mode, dark mode. I kind of wonder if Bulma has something to say about that. Like, one option would be I could actually create a custom theme. Like for the dark mode theme, you could imagine just changing some of these, the colors so that they just work better in dark mode, because as it is, it's like they really stand out in kind of a weird way. Alternatively, and so let's see what this actually is coming from, because we can see the theme values here, these CSS variables. Like these are Bulma light, blah, blah, blah. And these are all defined underneath roots. So like the dark mode here doesn't really have an override for those, it seems, is maybe what's going on. Not sure. There might be a way to do, let's look at the button types here. Button. So, if we just got rid of the is light, it's like this, which that is properly styled for dark mode and looks better. The X, it just is too in your face, but we could maybe, so see there's this is dark as well. Like if I did that, that'll probably look better in dark mode. Yeah. But if I switch to light mode, then that looks weird. Okay. There's also outlined. Which might make it a little bit less jarring no matter what the style is. Let's see what happens if we switch it to is outlined. Because part of the problem is it's like we've got these inputs, which just have an outline, and then the content of them is just the background color. And then we had these buttons where it's like they were, they stood out in contrast to the inputs, like they were unnecessarily standing outish. But with this, it's like they're not. The middle part's a little bit annoying, where the two outlines overlap. Like here you can see they overlap and it like looks one way, and then here it's like they overlap and it just looks slightly different due to, I don't even know why. But this actually looks pretty good. In light mode, these are too light. Why are they so light? Maybe I could do like is primary or something. Or is info. Is info. Okay, so that, looks like something. In the light mode, it looks like something too. It actually looks fine-ish. God. I'm getting so used to the dark mode. The light mode's like hurting my eyeballs now. Okay, I do like this better than how it was. I do wish that that could just be not blue though, but like is, you know, I don't really want text or black or dark. Do I? Maybe I actually want is dark. Maybe with the outline that'll look good. Well, looks terrible in dark mode. Looks great in light mode. That's like the opposite of what it was. How about this? Looks good in light mode, looks terrible in dark mode. Yeah. Okay. Let's just do is info for now. I want to like it's feeling like I'm going to need some way of having conditionally styled content based on whether we're in light or dark mode. Like in this case, I want to put one class on it if we're in light mode and one class on it if we're in dark mode. So with this is info thing, it's like it's kind of working around that. But if we look like it's settings, like here's another place where it's like in dark mode, this looks weird. If I switch to light mode, it looks good. If I switch this notification to use is dark though, then it looks good in dark mode, but weird in light mode, you know? So it's like we need conditionality there. The problem is whether we're in dark mode or light mode is there's a few things that determine that, right? So, one of them is this. In theory, that should be a source of truth, I guess. So what I could do, and you know, we had this problem with DataStar where it couldn't actually modify the any elements on HTML. So like here, we're actually setting an attribute on the HTML element, the root element of the whole document, to set this data theme thing, because that's where DataStar, or I mean, that's where Bulma is looking for it. And it would be nice if we had that there for us to use in our CSS as well, but it's not. Like the HTML, there's nothing there. If I actually click this, then it's going to toggle it. And if I click it back, it toggles it and there's something there, but it doesn't actually have that default value. And maybe we can fix this with Alpine now that we're not using DataStar anymore. So this would be like x bind class equals theme dark. Then it would be dark. Oh, and this is not class. We're binding data theme. Data theme. And maybe we just bind it to theme. Because if theme is dark, it's just going to be dark. If it's light, it's just going to be light. Okay, if I refresh here. So probably got an error. Did we get an error? No. Let's see if I put that here, just out of curiosity. So now the body, see how the body has that data theme on there already? But if I take these things and put them up in the HTML, hey, it actually did it. We got our data theme, right? I can't see because there's that little dude in the way. I don't know. Anyway, xbind data theme, data theme dark. Yeah. And if we switch it, switches to light. And so we should actually be able to get rid of this query selector down here, which is nice. And refresh. And so now, the theme is dark by default. If I click this, it switches to light. Click it again, switches to dark. That's what we want to see. Maybe I'll commit this as its own thing here as well. So this is like use Alpine to manage data theme attribute on HTML. Because it used to be we couldn't manage that with Datastar, but with Alpine, it's working. Okay. And then this one I'm going to do as well, just like adjust styles for buttons in today page. Probably going to be adjusting those further, but fine. Okay, so now we have consistently we'll always have this data theme element on the HTML that tells us whether we're in light or dark mode, right? So, and this is kind of important because we couldn't necessarily just use the, like you can use a CSS thing to like see if this prefers color scheme is true or not. But if the user actually clicked this thing, then what's rendered is not going to match that anymore. So we can't just naively do that. We have to check on this data theme thing, which we can do in our public CSS. The problem is we kind of want to conditionally apply classes, not so much conditionally apply styles. But conditionally applying classes requires JavaScript. So that's an option. I kind of wish we could do it with styles. So like let's do attribute selector. So if we did like HTML data theme equals dark, and maybe that should be in quotes, then we could put styles, underneath here, so to speak. Like say I did like dot notification dot is light. Because like this notification here is light. And then I could say, say color, or just say background color black. Just to illustrate here. So now if I refresh this, that color is black. If I switch it to, light mode, the color is not black, right? So the style is only actually applied when we're in dark mode. The problem is, it's like, what should it actually be applying, right? What we actually wanted to do is like extend one of our Bulma classes. Like we want to say like for this is light, actually do is dark. And if we were using like Sass, you could do like extend or something like that. Maybe with like an at in front of it or whatever. But we can't do that because we're just using raw CSS here. I don't think we can do that. I don't think that feature was added to CSS at all. I mean, I know variables were added, but I don't think that could be used for this. So it's like what we could do, we could override all of the styles ourselves to like what it should be for is dark. But the problem is then if we use a different theme or something, it's going to be a bit of an issue. Or like the alternative is for settings here in this notification like .isLight, we could do like x bind class theme equals dark is dark is light. And if we get rid of that is light, then. So now, let's get rid of that style as well, temporarily. So now it's like it's dark in dark. If I switch to light, it becomes light. And that, you know, the problem with that is if somebody's not using JavaScript, it's not going to actually switch. But there's a bunch of other things that are not going to work if they're not using JavaScript too. So we might just leave it at that. And I might kind of go with that approach. I'm going to leave this here, maybe like illustration of dark mode specific theme or selector. And then actually I'm going to use this xbind class approach. Just feels like it's a lot simpler. And we just kind of need to do that everywhere that we're seeing stuff that's weird. So like another example is these back buttons. If we look at those, I don't even know where exactly that lives. I guess in the actual pages, like up here, there's like this back button. So, you know, instead of is light, it would be like that. Yeah. And then if we switch it, it's like, hey, looks good, looks good, looks good, looks good. And yeah, it's definitely not the best, but it's okay. Okay, so where else do we have things to update here? So today page, everything here is looking fine, except for these. I could actually do the proper thing now and avoid having that blue color that I didn't really want. So like instead of is info, this could be yeah, that. So now theme dark. What if I do it like that? So let's switch to light mode. So yeah, okay. So I think this is like the opposite actually. It should be is light when it's in dark mode and is dark when it's in light mode. Right, because now it's like that, which looks good. And like that, which also looks, I mean, fine. It's fine. Can always adjust it even more later. But before I spend too much time thinking about that, I want to actually find other things that are wonky and fix them. So we looked at today. If we look at manage exercises, there's some things there. If we look at settings, we did those. If we look at manual, you know, the manual, I'm not too worried about that. In theory, these could maybe be like is dark, but it's going to be a little complicated to figure that out in the manual because it's compiled markdown. You can't really put JavaScript in there. Well, I guess you could. Right? It's just kind of annoying. But like if I did that up here, like this, right? And then I go manual. Yeah, it's using like the dark variant. And maybe I'll do the same thing down here. Wherever we have a notification, I can just do this piece of logic. Also down here. Okay, so now those are, dark. Fine. Okay, manual good, settings good, manage we need to handle. So that's exercises. And so here, like this is white is kind of the problem. If I just get rid of that and refresh, it doesn't look bad. Yeah, maybe I'll just have that one be like that. I think that's fine. Yeah. Okay, and then if I actually log out, there's this home page. And for this one, let's see, so it would be index, yeah. So for this one, like this, so this is a hero. What is a hero? I guess layout maybe. Hero. So the hero has these different things. It doesn't have dark and light though, does it? No. So that one's just, it's going to just be what it is. I'm not going to change that. Okay. And if I sign in, yeah, it's looking pretty good. Yeah. Okay. And the other thing though, like if I do manage, I guess if I go here, like these back buttons, I should do those as well. So if I look at, where did I do a back button? Yeah, like this. Let's just see if we can find all of the backs like this. So there's one here. And we can get rid of the is light. There's one here. Again, we can get rid of the is light and then add in the thing. And yeah, that's all three of them, I guess. So now this one, it's got like that. And if I switch it, it's like that. And then the other one is going to be here. It's like that. If I switch it, it's like that. Okay. But also, yeah, there's some other things on that page. We've got the notification. Again, get rid of the is light. So now that's going to be dark. Switch to light, switch to dark. And then these, maybe we want to adjust as well. So normally there is white. If I just get rid of that, what does it look like? So that's looking actually pretty good, right? For dark mode. What if I do is dark? See, I like that for those, but not so much for those. And if I switch it to light mode, that looks weird. But if I take the is dark off and switch it to light mode, I mean, it looks okay. So really, like there's this. I wonder if I can have two of these. Probably not. Let's see, Alpine JS. Just going to fix this one last thing and then wrap it up. Xbind. No. Show me the docs. Docs, Xbind. There's like some special syntax for classes. Yeah, object syntax. So I think that's what I want to use here. So we're going to have an object where is success is true when that's a thing, and is dark is true when theme is dark. Right? So now those look good. And like it looks fine like that. The problem is these, right? I don't really want those to have the dark applied to them. So really it would be like theme dark and not that thing. A little bit awkward, but you know, I think that's okay. Seems like it's not. So is dark is set when theme is dark. Oh no, it should be and that thing. Yes. Okay, like that. Looking good, I feel like. So we've got these, you know, if I uncheck, check, I can switch to light mode. Uncheck, check, seems fine. Okay. So, you know, we've got this, we've got these changes. Pretty much all of these changes are just conditionally use different classes in dark mode. Okay. Pretty good, pretty good. Let's push our changes here. And with that, I think I'm going to wrap it up for the day. Thanks, y'all. See you next week.